السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على حضرة سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا أكرم الأكرمين. أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, we continue our series inshallah ta'ala of the revealed supplications, the prayers, the du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran. And tonight inshallah the du'a that we will reflect upon is quite an interesting du'a. And the reason I say it's interesting because there's a number of questions, a number of topics that were derived and discussed by the scholars of tafsir and generally the scholars of Islam because of this specific dua. And the reason being is that this dua, it's a dua of one of the great prophets alayhi salam, one of the, perhaps the prophet that was mentioned the most in the Quran, was Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And it's a dua in which he doesn't really ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything. And yet, scholars, by consensus, they say this is a verse of a dua by Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. So there's an agreement that the statement itself includes a dua, is comprised of a dua. The meaning of it is a dua. So a dua, we always think of something that you ask from Allah, something that you seek from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a dua, but it does not include something specific that is being sought. So this dua is revealed in Surah Al-Qasas. We know that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, after the event that happened in Egypt and he left to Madian, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this in Surah Al-Qasas, and these are the verses number 23 and 24. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ. When he came to the water of Madian, he found there a crowd of people watering their flocks. وَوَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمْ إِمْرَأَتَيْن تَذُودَانِ. So apart from them, he found two women holding their animals back. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam asked, what is the situation? What is happening? قال ما خطبكما. So they replied, قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء. حتى يصدر الرعاء. So they said, we cannot water until the shepherds have taken their flocks. And then our father is an old man, so we're not able to join the men in the watering of the flocks. We have to wait until the men finishes all what they need for their flocks. Our father is an old man; he cannot really come himself, so he sent both of us to provide the watering. So we wait until everybody is done, and then we carry on. So Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, when he saw that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَسَقَى لَهُمَا. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, or I'll do it on your behalf. And after Sayyidina Musa done that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. So then he went to a shade to rest after all the effort that he has done to water their flock. So he went to a shade to rest. And then when he rested, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the dua that we're reflecting upon. فَقَالَ رَبِّي إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ. He said, my Lord, truly I am in desperate need of whatever good you may send down to me. Two things that we can derive from this. Actually, there are many things that we can derive, but I just want to focus on two things. One of them is mentioned in the biography of Sayyidi Abu al-Hasan al-Shadhili, the great saint, and also mentioned in the biography of his teacher, Sayyidina Ibn Mashish radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He used to tell his student, his disciple, Sayyidi Abu al-Hasan al-Shadhili, he would tell him, "Oh Abu al-Hasan, bring us cool water. Don't bring water that is room temperature or warm. Bring us cool water. Because hearts that are in a state of contentment, that are in a state of joy, in a state of delight, their gratefulness, their thankfulness, when they say Alhamdulillah, it comes from the bottom. But when they say Alhamdulillah after having some hot water, warm water, meaning it's not so delightful, it quenches the thirst, but it doesn't bring delight to the soul." So Sayyid Imam Ibn Mashishi says, the hamd, alhamdulillah, that comes after this type of water is not as good when it comes after the cool water. And the Shadhilis took from that shukr is a path to Allah. Enjoy the ni'mah and make the ni'mah a stimulation for sincere gratefulness, a gratefulness that comes from the very bottom. So if the Shadhilis would tell you, if you have room temperature water, something that would just merely quench your thirst, or some cool water that if you drink it, it will bring you some delight. They would tell you, a way to Allah, take the cool water. Why? Because then that will stimulate the gratefulness, the hamd that will come, very pure, very sincere, immense, coming from the bottom of the heart. They say, we took this from Sayyidina Musa. Why? Because he didn't make the dua immediately after he watered the flock. He could have done that. He could have done the water the flock for them, and he's now all tired, all sweaty, right? After all the exhaustion that he went through. In that situation, he could have said, "Oh Allah, I am in desperate need for whatever you bring down to me." No, he went to a shade. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I mentioned every time, and I repeat this, every word in the Quran matters, every letter matters, even every diacritic matters, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have skipped that. فَسَقَى لَهُمَا, and then he said, but Allah is keen to let you know that Sayyidina Musa did not make the dua immediately. Sayyidina Musa went to the shade, and after he sat down and rested in the shade, made the dua. So the great saints of the Shadhili tariqah, they derive from this. Make the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you have just been delighted by a blessing of dunya that is halal. Then make the dua then. Now he made the dua for an increase, but he made it in a way that he did not, and this is the second lesson that we derive from this dua, he didn't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something in specific. He said, "Oh Allah, I am in desperate need." For what? He didn't say. "I am in desperate need for whatever you bring down to me." But he didn't mention what is it exactly that he's seeking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it an increase in dunya, an increase in deen? He didn't mention. He just said, "Oh Allah, I am in desperate need." And from this, a great saint from the Alawi tradition, Imam al-Haddad, has an entire poem that revolves around this meaning, which is قَدْ كَفَانِي عِلْمُ رَبِّي. The knowledge of my Lord is sufficient. عَنْ سُؤَالِ وَاخْتِيَارِ. His knowledge of my situation, of my circumstances, of my context, of my wants and my needs, his knowledge is sufficient that I do not need to express a list, a wish list. So they derive from this that the saints, when they deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't deal in the manner of a wish list. They just expose themselves, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows before they do so. They just expose their weakness, their need, their dire need to Allah. And they let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose for them what suits their circumstances. They do express the need. Because some people think and I'll conclude by this, there's a lengthy discussion in the books of spirituality about which is better. Do you make dhikr? Do you make remembrance of Allah? Or do you make a dua? Is it better to make the dhikr or to make the dua? Should you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for specific things, or should you be busy doing dhikr? This manner of Sayyidina Musa combines both, because he only mentioned his need and he mentioned Allah. He didn't ask for something specific. So it becomes a very unique way in making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You expose your need and you let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose for you what is best. And then that is translated in the prophetic tradition in the form of istikhara. You say, oh Allah, if you know that such and such is good for me, bring it forth. If not, then grant me what you deem best and make me content with it. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.